All right, Lee, I believe we're live.
And not quite 5:15. Okay, my watch says it's 5:15. In case the board would like to begin.
Thank you. This is the December 21st, 2021 meeting of the City of Charleston Board of Zoning Appeals Zoning. Present are Mr. Judon, Ms. Grass, Ms. Vargas, Mr. Bennett, and Mr. Robinson. Present from the planning staff are Mr. Batchelder, Ms. Ashby, and Mr. Valentine. These proceedings are being recorded, and we ask that those who speak identify themselves for the record. We'll then conduct the meeting in the usual fashion. We'll first receive information from city staff about the application and their recommendation. If the recommendation is favorable and no one objects to the application, usually the Board of Zoning Appeals treats the matter as being uncontested and passes it in a matter of course. If, however, the city recommends against the application or there is opposition to the application, we treat the application as contested and hear from the applicant and anyone else who's in favor of the application. Next, we hear from anyone opposed, followed by a short rebuttal from the applicant. We then close the public hearing portion of the meeting for that particular application and open discussion to the Board of Zoning Appeals members only. We'll then make a decision to approve with conditions, or deny the application. The Board of Zoning Appeals Zoning has the authority to do three things. First, to hear appeals to decisions of the zoning administrator. Second, grant special exceptions, a fact-finding function of the board. And third, grant variances to the zoning ordinance if the application meets the hardship test outlined in section 54-924 of the ordinance. The board may deliberate and make a final decision on a matter by a majority vote of members present at the hearing and qualified to vote, provided that not less than a quorum is present and qualified to vote. However, an affirmative vote of 2/3 of the board members present and voting shall be required before a use variance may be granted. For a variance to be granted, the Board of Zoning Appeals must make the following findings. A, that there are extraordinary and exceptional conditions pertaining to the particular piece of property. B, these conditions do not generally apply to other property in the vicinity. C, because of these conditions, the application of the ordinance to the particular piece of property would effectively prohibit or unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property. And D, the authorization of a variance will not be of substantial detriment to adjacent property or to the public good, and the character of the district will not be harmed by the granting of the variance. Tonight's agenda, we have one item that has been deferred. That's item number B4, 56 Morris Street. That will not be heard at this meeting.
Is that correct, Penny? I thought it was the B5.
No, it's the last one, Oceanic.
Oh, I got it marked incorrectly on my form. I'm sorry. Scratch what I just said. That's incorrect. 56 Morris Street will be heard. Item number B5, 1595 Oceanic will not be heard tonight. It has been deferred. Very good. First item on the agenda is a review of minutes of the December 7th, 2021 board meeting. All the members should have been sent copies of those minutes. And are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes from the board members? Hearing none. I think Mr. Judon was not present at that. Hearing none, Ms. Grass, Moves for approval, seconded by Ms. Vargas. All in favor signify by saying aye. Ms. Grass,
Actually, I wasn't at that meeting either, so I don't
you
think.
weren't there either. One, two. Well, I think we
Probably ought to defer it.
have to defer that because we do not have a quorum present tonight of people that were at that meeting. So that particular item will be deferred. Item 2 on the agenda is 194 Jackson Street, Unit A, East Side. Request a variance from section 54-317 to allow a wine bar, first floor, with 311 square feet of indoor patron use area and 112 square feet of outdoor patron use area, piazza. With days of operation Wednesday through Sunday and hours of operation 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. without providing required parking spaces. 5 spaces required, zone general business. Mr. Batchelder.
Thank you. This application was before the board last month or last meeting on December 7th. And the application was presented to the board, and there was a member of the church located across the street from this property who spoke in opposition to this request. And the board elected to defer this matter due to the opposition, the concerns that were voiced, and asked that the applicant meet with the church and then come back to the board. So, and that's for the benefit of the 2 members present tonight who were not present at the meeting on December 7th. So this is back before the board, 194 Jackson Street. A little bit about the property first. This zoning map shows the location of the property. You can see the property at 194 Jackson Street with the blue dashed outline around it. It is zoned general business. And you can see from the zoning map that general business applies to the large property fronting on Meeting Street. That is the Charleston, City of Charleston Housing Authority office building headquarters. And there's a parking lot between that building and 194 Jackson Street for that office building. Then you see the properties along Nassau Street, also zoned general business. Those are the properties that abut 194 Jackson. And then in the northeast quadrant of this block, you see a DR2 designation, which is a residential zoning designation. To the south of the property, you see on the corner of Jackson and Nassau Street, 191 Jackson, that is the church, and then and zoned residentially. And then you see the 4 small buildings that are zoned limited business. And then the large building on Meeting Street is an apartment complex, multi-story apartment complex. And the building that sits on the next block to the east, which is surrounded by Jackson Street, Hanover Street, Nassau, and Harris Street, that is the former Archer School, which has not been a school for a while now. That property was rezoned recently by City Council, and the plans for redevelopment of that property into affordable housing are proceeding through the city's review process. So this property sits in an area of transition from the more intensive commercial along Meeting Street into a residential neighborhood. The general business zoning on this property, however, was very lenient. That's the same zoning that applies to properties in the commercial area of King Street. So very intensive zoning category for this particular area, but that's always the way, I mean, for many years now, that's the way these properties have been zoned. So moving on, here's a street view of the property taken from Google Street Maps, and this is a January 2015 photograph of the property. One thing you'll notice is that there are 3 mailboxes next to the front door, and that I think represents the 3 residential units that occupied this property for many years. And then there's a driveway that does provide access for vehicles into a little parking area at the back. However, for commercial use on the ground floor of the main part of the building, which is what's proposed now, that's not a suitable area for parking on for commercial clients, I guess, and they don't, I think, have access to that with their lease. Then you see the small commercial building just to the east. That's a separate property. And you see the large parking lot, surface parking lot to the west. That is the Housing Authority parking lot. Here's an aerial view, and just to point out a few things. So this corner property right here is a church, and they utilize this grassy area for additional parking, I believe. And then this property over here has been replaced by this apartment complex, and these buildings have been fixed up and converted to a mix of commercial uses. The applicant filed this application, making this request, and submitted these plans. So I'll just run through these plans. They would like to open a wine bar on the ground floor of the main house. And this slide identifies the conditions under which they would operate. So they're proposing in their application hours of operation Wednesday through Sunday for between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. Occupancy of 22 people, 6 seats, and that includes 6 seats on the porch on the ground floor of the piazza. Property zone general business, as I mentioned. They would not have any live music outside, although they would like to have small speakers on the porch with a decibel level no louder than 60 decibels, which is the normal conversational level. And then, of course, they would apply for a beer and wine license, but not have any liquor. This is a small operation, 2 to 3 employees working at any one time. These are photographs just showing the different areas of the building that they would use. And another thing I'll just point out here, again, here are 3 electric meters on the building. Again, signifying that that was 3 residential units. And I don't know exactly what the configuration of those units was or it still is, but obviously there was a unit upstairs. Here's the staircase that takes people up to the 2nd floor. And then this ground floor was probably 1 unit. And then I think the 3rd unit was in the building that is at the back of the main house and extends into that backyard. These are images just showing their proposed use on the inside. And I'm just using the slides that the applicant submitted. Occasionally I supplement them with additional slides. When the applicant is making their presentation, we can go back through these if they'd like me to do that. This is the floor plan So you see the interior space marked here, shown here, and the outside piazza space shown here as well. And that amount of space requires the 5 off-street parking spaces. More information about the proposal and why they can't use the parking lot area for parking. Another map, another floor plan illustrating the parking that does exist on the property. The driveway is narrow, 9 feet wide. And that image is showing the end of the driveway. You can see the large trees at the back. And then they've listed here other similar types of uses in the area that do not have off-street parking. And then one of the issues that came up at the last meeting was the difficulty the church has using their parking lot. This was expressed by the member of the church who spoke. So here is the gate that allows access into that church parking lot. And here's the curb cut right here off of Jackson Street. Now, this line right here on Jackson Street shows the end of the handicap parking space that is signed and marked for handicap only. So that parking space is pretty much immediately in front of the church. Then you get to this driveway right here, and then you see this yellow triangle that the city placed on the street to not allow parking within that area of Jackson Street right before you get to the stop sign. So obviously it's a problem when a car parks in this space and blocks the driveway, which they have a little sign here saying don't park there because this is a driveway. And you see this sign right here, the street sign that the city installed, showing the arrow in the direction of the stop sign. And again, that's telling somebody not to park in that triangle, but it doesn't prohibit them necessarily from parking in this driveway, which this car is doing. So after hearing that concern, I spoke with the city's Department of Traffic and Transportation, and I just received word yesterday evening that the director of that department has authorized his staff to go ahead and make adjustments to extend this triangle all the way down to this handicap space right here. So that would be no parking in this area of Jackson Street in front of the driveway. And they would replace this sign right here with a double arrow that points both directions and indicates no parking within that triangle. There's also a sign over here for the handicap space. And I guess I don't think it makes sense to put a sign here right next to the driveway because potentially cars would hit it. That wouldn't be good. So making those changes should help to alleviate the problems the church is having with people parking in front of their driveway. So that's one thing that we were able to accomplish within the last couple of weeks. And I hope that that works out for the church. So that is the presentation. My recommendation has been for approval with the conditions listed here being a part of the approval. So the hours of operation and the no live music and no sound, amplified sound above the 60 decibel limit, and beer and wine only. With those conditions, I would be willing to recommend approval. I know that this is an issue, presents an issue for the church, as we heard last time. And I'm hoping that this would be a small enough use, it wouldn't really generate that much demand for parking. And with limited hours, certainly not conflicting with their Sunday service, that would hopefully be acceptable to them. The other thing I'll mention is that any use you put in this building, of course, is going to generate demands for parking. So residential units or this small commercial use with maybe 2 more residential units on the property is going to generate parking. But having 3 residential units on the property versus 2 in a small commercial establishment may not be that much different. And in fact, it may not generate as much parking during most of the week. So with that in mind, my recommendation remains for approval with the conditions I've mentioned. And I know we've got a couple people signed up to speak in opposition. I know that the applicants were able to meet with the members of the church. I believe that meeting happened today. And so we'll see if anything has changed, but that's my recommendation.
City recommends for approval. Is the applicant present?
And yes, I see her listed. So Scott, could you promote Jess Vanderberken to be an attendee? And I'm not sure if there's anybody else that should be promoted, but we can ask her once she's available to speak to us.
It'll be just me tonight.
Okay. And let me swear you in.
Okay.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, yes.
Please proceed.
Thank you again, Lee, for presenting this on our behalf. And also thank you very much for your help with the traffic and transportation conversation on behalf of the church. I really do think that will make a difference and hope that goes well. And we're also, of course, willing to continue to help them in any way possible. I just wanted to start out by saying, again, we're very excited to be in this space, hopefully. We've gotten a lot of support from the community, over 28 letters of support. Over half of those being from residents who live within 2 blocks of this proposed business. And all of them are residents of the East Side as well. So we're really kind of thankful that we've gotten that amount of support. Like Lee mentioned, we were able to meet with 3 members of the church this morning. It was a really great conversation. I think it was really, really nice to talk in person with them. And I do believe that is the beginning of a good relationship. I do want to acknowledge, ultimately, I believe they are still opposed to us for reasons that, I think us or any other establishment that sells alcohol would present to them. So unfortunately, those are issues we couldn't really resolve. But I do think that, our willingness to give them our, personal phone numbers, direct lines of communication so that we can always be available, always willing to have conversations and address any issues that might come up in the future. I do think they were receptive to that as well. So that felt good. We want to be good neighbors. We want to, be a positive, impact on this neighborhood and this community.
I believe there's no one else who's going to speak on behalf of the application.
Just myself for the applicants, yes.
I noticed you talk about 6 seats on the porch, and then somewhere else in your presentation, the printed presentation, it says on the porch and patio.
Oh, those are synonymous. Those are the same thing.
So just all on the porch?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the applicant from the board?
Yes, I have a question. Is it necessary to have the business open on Sunday?
That would be a pretty big revenue driver for us. I think the weekends present probably our best, opportunity to make money as a small business. So we do believe that Sunday would be an important day for us to be open.
Any other questions?
I have a question for Mr. Batchelder. If the business were to close, would these same conditions apply to a new business that would operate as an establishment that sells alcohol?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. In opposition, anyone present in opposition to the application?
Mr. Robertson, there are two people that signed up to speak in opposition. Yes, sir.
Mr. Batchelor, would you please promote those people?
All right. And who was that?
One is Georgetta Simmons.
And
The other person is Gwendolyn Smith.
I don't see her.
Yeah, I see an Evan Smith.
I think that's a different person.
Hello? Yes, hello.
Hello? Who is this?
Gwendolyn Smith is here.
Oh, okay. Is that who you are?
Yes, I'm Gwendolyn Smith.
Do we have Miss
And I
Simmons?
oppose Smith. I'm Gwendolyn Smith.
Right. And is Miss Simmons also available?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me swear both of you in.
Excuse me. There should be 3 people. My pastor should be on to speak also, Reverend Miriam Francis.
Okay. I did see her on the list, Penny.
You did. Okay.
I'm wondering, we have a phone number on here.
She should be on the phone.
Okay, so let's also. Okay. Is the person?
She may need to hit *6 to unmute herself if she's using the phone.
If she's listening to us, can you hit *6 on your phone? Okay, I see it. It looks like we've got everybody. So let me swear all of you in together before you begin to speak and address the board. You all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I do.
Very good. With the first speaker, please proceed.
Reverend Francis.
I am Reverend Miriam Francis. And we had a meeting today with the applicants. And we were talking about having the wine bar across just a few feet from the church. And saying that there is hardly anybody there. This is the pandemic going on, and a lot of people are afraid to come out. And you were talking about the zoning and the handicap sticker. I would like to let you know the parking is so bad around there. I called and asked the Department of Transportation to please let us have a handicap sticker because I am handicapped and I have to walk from Nassau Street all the way sometime down to Hanover Street because the street is blocked with traffic. And they put the handicap sticker there for me maybe about 4 weeks ago. It wasn't always there. And we get to church on Sunday morning. We can't even get in the yard because it's blocked. About 3 out of 4 times, we have to call the Department of Transportation and tow cars away. So I oppose them having a wine bar across the street from the church. And we are not only there on Sunday, we have Bible studies. We have BTU, which is Baptist Training Union. We have meetings. We have a lot going on, so it's not just a church sitting there doing nothing. And I don't think it would be a good idea to have a wine bar across the street because it's already congested with cars and with people. They sit on the steps of the church, they drink, they leave the cigarette trash there. On Sunday, we have to pick up bottles and everything, even out the yard. They throw across the fence. So I say, no, I oppose them having a wine bar across from the church. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Reverend Francis? Any questions from the board?
I will ask a question right now. Regarding parking for the church, do the members of the church have a designated parking area? Do they park within that within the fenced area?
We park within the yard where we can get in, but seem like they park in the driveway. We can't even get up past some cars to even get in the driveway. And we always have to walk so far distance to get to church on Sunday morning. And that's why I request the handicap sticker, which I am handicapped, and I have to take that long walk from the church when I get out of the car.
Any other
We are
questions?
seeing what's happening.
Sorry.
I have
Any other
one-
questions?
I do have one question. This is John Bennett. Is the primary demand for parking at the church Sunday mornings, or is it throughout the week? I'm just trying to understand how that
Throughout the
competes with the proposed hours of operations.
It's throughout the week because we have different meetings, prayer meetings, Bible studies, different things at the church. We've been there a long time.
Mhm.
And now that since the last resident in that block died, then they changed it into commercial. But I don't think we should have a wine bar, in other words, a club, right across from the church. And then they want outdoor piazza. That means they want the chairs and tables out there in the yard, and that's very close to the church. I know they want to make money, but make it in a different way. Thank you.
Any other questions? Would the second speaker please make the presentation?
Okay, my name is Gwendolyn Smith, and I oppose Bar Rollins getting the variance for parking because to piggyback on what Reverend Francis says, there's already a problem with parking on Jackson Street. We have to contend with the people who live in the apartment building on the corner of Meeting and Jackson Street. We have to contend with the people that frequent the establishments next door that were allowed to come next door to our church and sell alcohol. Now they want to put something across the street to sell alcohol. We're just going to be surrounded by it. And like Reverend Francis say, we can get people into the yard, the park, but the yard is only so big. So you can't get that many cars in there because people won't be able to turn around and get out of the yard. So we can only put so many cars in there. And so there's just a problem with parking already. And this wine bar is just going to add to the problem. So I don't think that they should be granted a variance at all because we already have problems over there with parking. And we do have evening programs. We have church anniversary. We have other things. And our secretary, our clerk is going to give you a listing of all the stuff that we have in the evening. She has a list of everything. So I'll turn it over to her.
Any questions for Ms. Smith? The final speaker, please make your presentation.
Well, when we have our evening programs begin if we have, say, we have church anniversary, 3 Sunday, the 3 Sunday program begins hours down. So I have a question on, and I have the question like this is for the title.
Well, one moment, please. One moment,
The South
please.
Carolina Code of Law, no.
Ms. Simmons, that you're not being picked up very well
Yes.
on the audio. Mr. Valentine, can you figure out what's going on?
No, it may be her internet connection, maybe letting her down.
Ms. Simmons, are you still there? Ms. Simmons?
You hear?
Ms. Simmons?
Yeah.
Your audio, your sound is not coming across clearly to us. Please try again.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, try. That sounds better. See if that holds up.
Okay. My question was Title 61 of the South Carolina Codes of Law says that no establishment that sell alcohol should be open within 300 feet of a church or a school. They are less than 300 feet away from us.
Mr. Batchelder, do we have a position on that?
Well, the state has to license this establishment like any other establishment that serves alcohol. They have one set of rules for beer and wine and another set of rules for businesses that serve liquor. And I believe that the distance requirements that apply to the churches and schools only apply to businesses that serve liquor by the drink. And that's my understanding. I'm not by any means an expert with the state law because it's confusing to me, but
not according to the law that I have printed in front of me.
And
I believe that's not part of the city ordinance, though. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that, Ms. Simmons, the city ordinance doesn't have that, and we don't go by the state law, that would be a problem the applicant would have if they went to the state and requested the right to do that.
But the
city
state
doesn't do that.
issues, but the state issues the alcohol license, you don't.
Correct.
Correct.
So if the state issues the alcohol license, then they should have to abide by the 300 feet from a church.
They would have to do that if they go to the state, but we don't have any control over that at the city level.
So where are they getting their alcohol license from?
But you're giving them a variance to sell the alcohol within 300 feet of a church.
The application that they have applied for is a parking variance.
It's
We
a
give-
parking variance. And
That's
so,
all they're asking for from us.
okay, so, and we strictly oppose that because it will create more problems than we already have. And in addition, when we met the last time, supposedly there was going to be no music. Now they have added speakers outside on the porch. That wasn't on the original application. That wasn't on December 7th. There was no music. Now we're hearing that there will be music with speakers on the porch.
I don't really recall whether that was part of the original application or not, to be honest.
I recall because I have it printed.
Yeah, I think the discussion last time, this is a different slide. The slide that's on the screen right now is a different slide from what we had last time. It did not include that statement about having the ambient music via small speakers with a decibel level no louder than 60 decibels. Did not include that. There was some discussion.
It did not include that.
Right, and I think I discussed that maybe a condition would be that it would not be, that you couldn't have any speakers out there. So that was discussed and presented at that time. They would like to have that ability now, but it's up to the board as to whether you want to allow that.
Okay, anything else, Ms. Simmons?
Yes, tell them about our evening. You have the calendar there. Hello? You went out again.
Ms. Simmons?
Okay, this is Ms. Smith. She has the calendar, but I don't know what's going on with her connection, but we do have programs in the afternoon on Sundays. We have our church anniversary, we have the choir anniversary, we have the anniversary for the ushers. We have, like Reverend Francis say, there's Bible studies, there's all kinds of things that we do in the afternoon. We do not want people coming to our church, seeing a wine bar across the street with people sitting on the porch, drinking wine and playing music.
Anything else from the opposition?
We strongly oppose it.
Are there any questions from the board to the opposition? Hearing none, the applicant may have a brief rebuttal.
Thank you. You know, we certainly understand the issues that they're up against with the parking. And we really do hope that our efforts that Lee mentioned with reaching out to traffic and transportation to get that area kind of posted, re-signed so that the driveway will no longer be blocked will significantly help with that issue so that they will always have access to their driveway into that parking lot next to the church. You know, we met with Lee, we did discuss this, the speaker outside. This is very much meant to be just atmospheric music, just literally no louder than the conversation we're having at this moment, purely for ambiance for our guests on the porch. So again, no live music. We are absolutely not intending to be a rowdy late night spot at all. I think, you know, we're again, just very much open to any sort of help we can give to the church, any sort of, you know, line of communication we can keep open with them. You know, we do believe that we are going to be an improvement to the neighborhood. We're not encouraging people to drive while drinking. We are in a walkable area. And I think the, you know, the overwhelming support of the neighborhood does show that as well and support us. And to that point, I did think that someone was signed up to speak for us as well. Are they around?
We've passed that point in the program.
Okay, I saw someone listed on the agenda as signed up to speak for us.
That opportunity is gone by.
Okay.
This is a rebuttal period.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The public hearing portion of this is closed, and now we will open it for board discussion. Does anyone on the board have any comments?
I have a question, if I could ask Mr. Batchelder. This is Hesa Vargas. Mr. Batchelder, you said this is zoned as general business. Is this parking issue going to be an issue regardless of what commercial use goes in there?
I believe it would be that on-site parking is simply not, there's simply not enough room to accommodate the vehicles that would need to be accommodated for any kind of commercial use on the property. So I think that regardless of what the commercial use is, it's still going to be an issue before the board. It might be that an office use, for instance, would require fewer spaces. That's probably the case. But they would still have to come to the board.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I have a comment. My comment is that I understand that there is a pandemic going on now and there's not a lot of activities going on at the churches at this time, but I do believe that it will be as it was before with that particular congregation. And I think the parking will eventually become a problem. That's all.
Well, I guess, you know, the thing is right now, Charleston, as we all know, has become a very, very popular place for people to move to. And we're seeing activity in neighborhoods that we've never seen before. We're dealing here at this board with facts as best we can. This particular property is zoned general business, and the owner of the property has certain rights under the general business zoning to do things with it within reason. And parking would be a concern no matter what that use was of this particular property. I think we all can understand the church's feelings in opposition to this particular application. And the applicant in their presentation has done what they feel they can do to run a business there that they want to put, and with as much respect for the church as possible. So those are the issues that we have to weigh as a board. Is this something that meets the guidelines and would qualify for a variance for parking? That we're looking at a parking variance. That's what the question is in front of us tonight.
I'd like to just say that, excuse me, I'm sympathetic to the church members' concerns about current issues that they've described. I do feel that the size of the establishment and the limited occupancy and the commitment by Traffic and Transportation to restripe the street in front of the gate and to install new signage that would prevent people from parking in front of the gate and blocking access to their parking area would go a long way in helping alleviate any concerns that they might have. So I feel like I would recommend support for the application, but I want to hear more from the board.
Are there any other comments? Are there any motions?
I would move for approval.
Move for approval by Ms. Grass. Is there a second?
I would like to ask a question. If that move for approval includes the conditions listed forth, specifically hours of operation, Wednesday to Sunday, 4 to 10, no live music, a 60 decibel limit outside, and a limitation to beer and wine license only.
Yes, I'm sorry. I'll move for approval with those conditions.
There was also a restriction on the number of outside seats in the application, six seats on the piazza.
Right.
And there was some comment on the speaker music, even at 60 decibels. Is that part of the motion?
Yes. Yes, I'd like to change the motion to include all the conditions we've discussed, and also I guess we should add in there to make sure that Traffic and Transportation does install the striping and the signage. If we can do that, I'm not sure if we can add that as a
I
condition.
don't believe we can add that in.
Okay.
I'd like to go through these conditions one more time, Ms. Grass, just to be sure that a few of them. No live outdoor music, total of 22 seats occupancy, 6 of which may be on the piazza. No liquor or beer may be served.
I'd say beer and wine only.
Beer and wine only, no liquor may be served, beer and wine only. And then what was the final position on the speakers on the porch? Ms. Grass, in the motion, what was the position on the porch speakers?
I guess we'll go by the recommendation made by Mr. Batchelder that their decibel level will be no louder than 60 decibels, a normal conversation level.
If we're going to approve, could we give the church at least a concession on that piece and not permit music on the porch? I think that would help with people hanging out.
I too am opposed to outdoor music.
Okay. Okay, well then I'll change my position to move for approval with the conditions. The hours of operation, Wednesday through Sunday, 4 to 10 p.m. The occupancy limited to 22, including 6 seats on the porch. No live music and no music at all on the porch, and no liquor and only beer and wine allowed.
And is there a second to that motion?
I will second that motion.
Seconded by Mr. Bennett. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Judon.
Nay.
Ms. Grass.
Aye.
Ms. Vargas.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. By a vote of 4 to 1, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, 12 Line Street, East Side. Request a use variance to allow commercial use on the first floor of a residentially zoned property. Request a special exception under section 54-317 to allow a dog grooming shop and a coffee shop with no off-street parking. 11 parking spaces required, zone DR2F. Mr. Batchelder.
12 Wine is a residentially zoned property in the east side and had been on a previous agenda of the board, but the applicant requested that it be deferred before the hearing because they were having difficulty contacting some of the neighbors. So we deferred it. That's why it's under the deferred items on this agenda. Property is a corner store sitting on the corner of Line Street and Hanover Street, as shown here on the zoning map with the blue dashed line around it. And you'll note that the building, which is not quite located here on this image in the correct spot, it doesn't extend into the street like that, but it pretty much occupies most of the property. And here's an aerial view of the corner store building. And there'll be more images in a few slides of the actual building and the surrounding. But you see here on this image that caddy corner on the other corner, southeast corner of this intersection is a church. And then you've got residential properties around it. The one residential property immediately to the west on Line Street is actually owned by the City of Charleston Housing Authority. So that was another neighbor that the applicant wanted to reach out to, and they were having some trouble with that, but I think they were able to make contact with the Housing Authority about that property. So they are proposing a coffee shop and dog grooming shop on the first floor of this structure. I believe upstairs is an apartment, and they list here the characteristics and that sort of thing, and why they think they meet the special exception requirements for this use. Actually, and the use variance as well, because this is a residentially zoned property, so it needs a use variance approval from the board. I know I had conversed with the applicant a while back about the hours of operation, and so I'd like them to address that. I could not find the email that I thought we exchanged on that point, so I'd like him to address that in his comments when he presents this to the board. But moving on, here are the existing and proposed floor plan. Well, actually, the existing floor plans here. So the original building is the building with the bold outline, and then there were some additions over here that are not in best of condition. This is the proposed floor plan. So cafe would be on the corner and have interior space as well as this outside space in the what basically has been a driveway, although I'm not sure it's been used that way, but that's effectively what it is. And then in the back of the building, on the ground floor, would be the dog grooming business. They've identified, and this is a blow up of this image over here, the parking requirements for these uses. And they would, okay, here's where it says. So the coffee shop has 528 square feet of indoor dining, 428 square feet of outdoor dining, maximum of 3 employees working at once. Shop will sell beer and wine, but no liquor. Hours would be Sunday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. So basically 7 days a week, 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Outdoor patio hours would be 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Dog grooming shop, 958 square feet of floor space, maximum of 2 employees, public hours Tuesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5, and private appointments Tuesday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 10. And then they would share restaurant space. So here's photographs of the existing building. This is the Line Street frontage, and you see over here the outdoor space that they would use for that coffee shop. And then behind it is the building that was added on to this corner store. It's really not in very good condition. I think they'll have to rebuild that, if I remember correctly from our conversation. Another image of the corner store. And this one I inserted into the applicant's images because I wanted to show that the building extends all the way to the rear property line right here. So this driveway is the neighboring property. So you can clearly see there's really no room for off-street parking suitable for a commercial use on this property. And here's a close-up view of that little outdoor area. And you see the condition of that one-story addition right here. So very good shape. Then they also were able to secure letters of support from neighbors in the area before they actually made their application. So those were included in this image overview. And I know that there were more comments submitted in support under the all the comments that were received prior to noon yesterday, and those were sent to the board members. So more letters of support, 55 Columbus, 88 Columbus, residents of the East Side. So that's basically the application. And my recommendation would be for approval with the conditions that are stated in this plan about the beer and wine only in the coffee shop, the hours and days of operation, and the hours of operation for the patio. So not starting at 7 a.m., but 9 a.m. outside on the patio for the coffee shop, and then dog grooming conditions as well. So that would be my recommendation. I think clearly this is a corner store building, and I don't know that it's been occupied in a number of years, and maybe when it was last occupied, it was something quite different from this, but I'm not sure exactly what that was. It's my understanding that the applicants did reach out to the members of the church and the housing authority, and we haven't received any objections or concerns from any residents or those folks. So again, my recommendation would be for approval of this request with the conditions addressing those points.
City recommends approval with conditions stated in the application. Is there any opposition? Ms. Ashby? Ms. Ashby, you there?
No, Mr. Robinson, there was not any opposition.
No opposition. Motion for approval with conditions as stated in the application made by Mr. Judon, second by Ms. Grass. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Judon.
Aye.
Ms. Grass.
Aye.
Ms. Vargas.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. Next item on the agenda is 30 Transom Court. Request a variance to allow an addition, golf cart bay, bathroom, mudroom, porch, extension, stairs with a 3-foot south side setback and a total side setback of 7 feet, and an elevated pool with a 0-foot side and rear setback, 9-foot south side, 15-foot total side, and 3-foot rear required, zone general business. Mr. Batchelder.
30 Transom Court is a residential property, but it sits in a commercially zoned area. So this is, Transom Court is a cul-de-sac that comes off of Ashley Point Drive, just west of the Ashley. This is a small little residential development, probably subdivided and developed probably about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And some homes have been built on the lots, but not all of the lots have homes on them this time. It sits adjacent to the marina, the Albemarle Point Marina. And the property had been zoned industrial for many years, and then it was rezoned to commercial, and all kinds of different uses were proposed. And then this residential development came along. So, so we've got some single family homes as well as townhouses, and this is a single family home lot. And GB does allow residential development, and it does include building setbacks for buildings, residentially used buildings in this zoning district. If it's a commercially zoned building, there are no building setbacks, but residentially zoned properties or buildings, residentially used buildings rather, in the general business district do have building setback requirements. So this building, this home, and the other homes shown in this image were built in compliance with those setbacks. I know that there was a comment made by one of the folks who submitted a written comment in support of this application that the city has granted setback variances for other homes on the street. I don't believe that's the case. I believe we've maybe supported and approved some variances to allow the homes, the encroachments of the homes into the protective zones around grand trees, because as you can see in this image, there are some grand trees that are protected by the city zoning ordinance, and they have zones of protection around them based on the size of the tree. So we may have supported those requests in the past, but I don't believe we submitted or we've supported setback variances. I could be wrong. I couldn't find anything in our records to indicate that we had supported variances. But this home complies with those setback variances, and I'll show you that on the site plan. So this is the application. This is the site plan survey, actually, of the existing property. And here's a blow up of that image. So this is a patio right now in the back, and walkway that leads back here to the patio and to this porch on the back of the house. You'll see this HVAC stand in one of the photographs. And there's a stand over here. Now this says 6-foot setback. That's actually a 3-foot setback by city regulations, not a 6-foot setback. So that stand does not encroach into the side setback on that side. And then there's a 3-foot setback on the back and a 9-foot setback along this side property shown with this dashed line. There is a large tree, a 44-inch diameter live oak in the front yard. And of course that had a protective zone around it, and houses, buildings cannot be built into that protective zone unless a variance is granted. Typically those are not granted very easily. So perhaps that does restrict the lot somewhat because of the protective zone, but with the shape of the lot, it becomes a little bit challenging to fit the house on the lot, and if it's closer to Transom Court. This is a site plan just showing the proposed addition. I know it's very hard to understand. It took me a few minutes, but and I've got a blow up of this to help illustrate it. But basically, they're proposing to build an addition on this side of the house at the end of the driveway, and then they would like to install a pool in the very back corner beyond that addition, and that pool will be elevated, I think, about 20 inches above grade. And so that, in our opinion, does require a variance as well. So we've listed the variances for both the side addition to the house and the pool in the back. This is a blow up of the site plan I just showed you with an image that shows the proposed first floor of the with the addition shown. So the front, I think this is a small garage. The applicant can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is a small garage for a golf cart. And then there's a sort of a mudroom area over here for access into the house, possibly. And then the porch back here and the pool in the back corner. And this would be an extension of the existing porch right here. So moving on, I've added these slides to try and illustrate what that means. And so this is a blow up of those two images that I just showed you. And you can see that at this corner, the corner of the proposed addition is 3 feet 2 inches from the side property line. So that's the closest point of the proposed addition to the side property line. And 4 feet 11 inches back here, 3 feet 5.5 inches right here. And we've just listed it as a 3-foot setback. It's a little bit more than that, but not much. And then also to help illustrate this, I'm just outlining with this highlighter the part that gets added, the building addition that is added to this house, and then doing the same thing over here on this site plan, again, to try and help illustrate what's being proposed here. And then we get to the photograph. So this image is looking along the back side of the house. You see the existing porch, and this is an area that has the patio in it right now that would be replaced with pool. And then on the left, you see a photograph taken from basically the same vantage point, looking back out towards Transom Court. You see the HVAC stand right here on the right side, adjacent to the side of the house. So all this goes away and gets replaced with a 1-story addition. This is the patio that would go away and be replaced by the pool. And beyond that, those shrubs would be the marina. Another view looking along the side of the house from the driveway towards the rear property line. Another image of the site plan showing existing and proposed first floor. And then the elevations, existing right elevation, front elevation, rear elevation, and the proposed elevation. So this would be the view from Transom Court. And view from the backyard would be right here. And then a little 3D image of what that would look like. And then I'll just go back to this image again. So you see these large grand trees, and the applicant submitted this set of photographs and this information to help understand the sizes of those grand trees and the distances they are from houses. And one more slide of that. Here. I'm not sure where this tree is exactly, but anyway. And then their explanation of how they feel they meet the variance test. And then more images. So they do have support. In fact, I know that there are a number of comments that were submitted. And then we have these two letters that were submitted. Well, actually, no, these are the two letters that were submitted with the application. So we added those to the PowerPoint. And there are more comments that were submitted online, which you have. So there's a lot of support. I don't believe there's any opposition to this request. And I'm not terribly opposed myself, although I'm a little bit concerned that I'm having trouble understanding what the hardship is. I guess you could consider the tree in the front yard and the protected zone around that tree is limiting the opportunity to build on this lot enough that it justifies a variance into the side setback. That could be one argument, and but I'll let the applicant speak to that. I'm a little bit concerned about this because I don't want to just go ahead and say I support a variance without having a good argument in favor of it. And so that's the only thing I would caution the board against is with the overwhelming support, I think we still have to have a good argument in favor of this variance request, or we potentially open ourselves up to other requests for other lots that clearly don't have any hardships on them either. So and I know, I will say this, there was one application that came in, I'm going to say it was probably 5 months ago, for another lot, not on Transom Court, but on Mizzen, Mass, which is the street that leads into Transom Court. And this vacant lot, again, part of the residential development, and we received an application to build a home on that lot that was I think that would have encroached substantially in every setback that was required on the lot, plus it would have exceeded the lot occupancy restrictions for the total building area as a percentage of the lot. And we told that applicant under no circumstances would we be supporting that request, and we would be strongly recommending against its approval because we saw absolutely no argument for a variance, and luckily they withdrew it and didn't come to the board and waste your time. But that's what we want to avoid. So having said all that, I'll just say that I'm not entirely supportive of this request at this point.
That's your position.
Yes. I'd like the applicants to make a case to the board. And I know we've got representation for the application. Mr. O'Kelly is representing it, as well as the architect, Jody Crosby.
Is the applicant present? Or the representative of the applicant?
Penny, did they sign up to speak, right?
Yes, Mr. Batchelder, the owner did sign up to speak, Mr. Perrin, Jim Perrin.
Mr. Perrin, are you present?
Can you promote them, Scott?
And also Miss Crosby is here, who's our architect and designer. She should be here as well.
Yes, I'm here, everybody. This is Jody Crosby.
Is everyone now been promoted on behalf of the applicant?
I don't see the parents because I know they wanted to speak as well, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I think they're
I'd
on.
like to swear everyone in at the same time.
Okay, it seems like everybody's been promoted, so I'll swear all of you in together. You all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Would the first speaker please make their presentation?
This is Jody Crosby speaking on behalf of the homeowners. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Lee. I know that you are always very, very careful about the applications, and I do appreciate your position on this. I do want to point out, I don't feel that there's any need for me to repeat the application. Lee did a great job. It is as he has presented. I want to point out though, when the house was built in 2007, front-facing garage doors were prohibited. This home was one of the first 3 homes built in this small development of 12 lots that it was built without a garage or a pool. Those first 3 homes did not have garages because they would have had to be front-facing garages. And as I stated, they were prohibited. Now, I'm not sure if that was by the city or by the neighborhood, but later, I believe the parents said in maybe 2012, and they can correct me if I misquoted that because I didn't jot that note down. The neighborhood started allowing front-facing garages. So 4 of the 7 homes that are built in the neighborhood actually have garages and pools because that rule was lifted later on. So I also want to state that there are 2 houses that are currently under construction or in the development phase that have garages and pools as well. 28 Transom Court, that's to the left of this home, originally had a garage. There's almost a bit of, it looks sort of like a little carriage house in front, but it was originally intended to be a garage. But because it couldn't be front facing, they had to convert it, they converted it into actual livable space in the house because they couldn't have that front facing garage door. And I also want to just say that the 28 Transom Court, we thought originally they had a variance for being 5 feet off of that right property line closest to our applicant, but I've heard Lee say that we actually have a 3-foot side setback. But I do want to say that it's not much more of a variation from what the neighbor has at being 5 feet off of that property line than what we're requesting to be the 3.2 feet off of the property line. And I do also want to state that the parents are open to putting that pool at grade if that makes a difference in the determination from the board. They would prefer it elevated up the 24 inches. That would be pretty much level with their porch if that wasn't a problem. But if it did become a bone of contention, then they're open to it being at the ground level. So that pretty much concludes the additional information that I wanted to add to the application.
Any question for Ms. Crosby from the board?
I do have a quick question. Ms. Crosby, this is John Bennett. What is the interior dimension of that garage? It appears extremely tight. I just wanted to know if that is actually usable as a garage.
It's for a golf cart, so it's not like we have doors that are swinging open. It literally is just to house the golf cart because this home does not have the luxury of a garage. So it's a place to keep the golf cart out of the weather. Cars can park in the driveway. They have roofs, they have, doors, they have windows. Golf carts tend to be a little more exposed. So
okay.
Let me pull up and see. It would be a 7-foot clearance interior to interior to answer your question.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Ms. Crosby?
I just wanted to ask, this is Allie Grass. I just wanted to ask about going back to Mr. Batchelder's point about the hardship, if you could discuss that a little bit more.
Absolutely. That I should have done that from the very beginning. Yes, the hardship is the large oak tree in the front. When the home was built, it had to be pushed back. It also, due to that tree, there was really no way to put a garage, forward facing, sideward facing, or otherwise on the lot. So that oak is a 44-inch oak tree in the front. So we're very limited, and it's a slight, pie-shaped lot as well. So they were very limited, which I want to also say that the parents did not build this house. They did not contract anybody to build this house. They bought this house as is after the fact. So they didn't have any part in the design and development of this home. So they did not create a hardship themselves by designing and having this home built. But the 44-inch oak in the front is what has caused the house to be pushed back. And I know the parents have talked to some neighbors because we know that the city has been favorable of giving some variances based on the large oaks in this neighborhood and allowing structures to be closer to the actual trees. So they've, allowed some variances on that behalf. But when the parents kind of approached their neighbors about, possibly putting some additional storage, a garage, that sort of thing in the front of the house, it was definitely, nobody was in support of it, because if Lee could go back to the front view of just the street view, if you don't mind, sir, the house is very attractive as it is. Putting a garage in the front of this home would not benefit the parents, would not benefit any of the neighbors. Really isn't gonna, it's not gonna improve the streetscape. And this home is, as you come down Transom Court, it is the focal point because it's dead straight on from the street at the end of the cul-de-sac. So this was definitely putting a little bit of storage area and additional space that they needed to the right and not in front was definitely something that the neighbors were more in favor of, and the parents as well. But that 44-inch oak on the front is definitely what our hardship is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person to speak, please present your case.
Mr. Chairman, Hamlin O'Kelly here for the parents. To answer the question that Ms. Grask asked, I'm going to dovetail what Ms. Crosby said.
Mr. O'Kelly, pardon me, Mr. O'Kelly. You're breaking up a little bit. Could you check your connection?
I think this is as good as it gets. Is that any better?
About the same.
Well, I apologize. I don't know what's going on, but a little muddled through. If y'all can't hear me, raise your hands. I can always try and call in, I guess.
We can hear. We can hear. It's just a little garbled. Okay.
Sorry about that. But the hardship is all that I want to express to you all is this oak tree that you can see in front of you, and the fact that this lot is different from the others in the neighborhood. If that oak tree weren't here, we wouldn't be talking to you all. And the city has a very strict tree policy. You all, when I say you, I'm talking about the city, encourages trees, wants trees to be protected and dealt with. You all have granted variances in the neighborhood as to the setback involving the trees. And the parents are very mindful of the fact that this tree is actually an asset, but it does create a hardship for them. It differs from the other lots in the neighborhood that they can't build the way the neighbors build. And I think it's important. One thing I need to address is that Mr. Batchelder says he's not terribly opposed. Well, not terribly opposed is not, I recommend deny. I think that's important to note. I also think it's important to note the avalanche of support they've gotten from everyone in the neighborhood, including Ms. Kettner, who's the next door neighbor, including comments from other neighbors who say that this would be an asset in the neighborhood. Mr. Batchelder did raise the what we call the floodgates argument. If you give it to these people, then you'll have to give it to everyone. Legally, I disagree with that. Each application is viewed on its own under the statute that the General Assembly gives us for variance test. And so I'm not so sure that giving a variance in this case would open the floodgates for everyone all over the city of Charleston to say you should get rid of you should grant a variance just because someone has a protected tree in their yard. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but between Mr. Batchelder and Mr. Crosby, much of my work has been done here.
Any questions from the board for Mr. O'Kelly? Would the property owner like to speak? Oh, excuse me, Mr. Bennett, please.
Sorry, if you don't mind. Mr. O'Kelly, this is John Bennett. I'm curious about the neighbor to the rear. Did they provide a letter of support as well? And the one I'm talking about is the one with the 0 foot lot line directly.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Batchelder might have addressed that. The neighbor to the rear is the back side of the marina. There's no house there. It's the commercial development of the marina. And you can, there was one slide that showed the location and the rear property owner. It's upright. Well, I think it's this large property that Lee's moving his cursor over, but that's the commercial property that's part of the marine.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Would the property owner please present their case?
Yeah, I appreciate and thank you for the opportunity to speak and your consideration for our variance request. You should know that our variance request comes after a thorough and lengthy review of all the possible alternatives due to the hardship created by the grand oak tree. We and our neighbors firmly believe that this request is the best alternative for us and our neighborhood. We started when we started this process of looking at how to basically deal with the issue of the oak tree. We started with the original architect for the house, and from that we then moved on to 5 additional architects. We then engaged 2 builders and we engaged 4 designers. In all, we engaged a dozen professionals for the design with the grand oak tree. All the designs and based on all the work with the professionals, we then engaged our neighbors to further refine and develop the design for the neighborhood. And ultimately, we love the grand oak tree and the heritage that the tree brings our community, but we have had to be creative in working through the hardship the tree presents with a significant reduction in the buildable area of a small lot. So we respectfully request your approval for the variance as it best addresses our hardship.
Thank you. Any questions for the property owner?
Well, and then Sarah, my wife, would like to add as well.
I'm sorry. Please.
If I may, my gratitude for the opportunity to further express the reasoning behind our variance request. As we have mentioned time and again, the grand tree dominating the front of the property is unique to all the other property in the neighborhood, which we feel both blessed by and then somewhat restricted by, really restricting us from maximizing the buildable area as other property owners in the neighborhood have been able to do with their homes. So we feel strongly that strict application of this ordinance to this particular piece of property really unreasonably restricts the utilization of the property in a manner that's equitable and commensurate with the other homes in the neighborhood. And we greatly appreciate the support of our neighbors and respectfully request your approval of this variance for this particular piece of property. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the property owners? Ms. Ashby, is there any excuse me once again, Mr. Bennett.
I'm very sorry, I'm late to it once more. This is actually a question back for Ms. Crosby about the pool says designed by others. Is that the footprint intended? And are we likely to see a change to the design of the pool?
That is the footprint that is intended. It is designed by others because we don't do that sort of design. I would actually need to defer this question more to the parents. They're going to be working more closely with the pool company.
Yes, that is the footprint of the pool. And to Jody's point, we have engaged 2 pool designers that have come out and taken a look, and they're going to provide the detailed design for the pool, but this is the footprint of the pool and then also a spa off the porch.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Ms. Ashby, is there any opposition to this application? Present,
No, Mr. Robinson, there is no opposition.
no opposition, so no need for rebuttal. Mr. Batchelder. Mr.
Well-
Batchelder, I think I noticed in the application, there's no request for variance for lot occupancy.
Correct. So the only issue is the setbacks, and I think they probably have made a good case. I think that, yeah, you could do some creative things in the front yard if that tree wasn't there to probably address some of their needs. But with that tree there, they are prevented from utilizing any area in the front yard to build sort of a garden structure or something along those lines that could accommodate some of these needs. So yeah, I would say that they do have a case for a variance here. I would agree with that.
So city recommends approval?
Correct.
City recommends approval. There's no opposition. Motion for approval made by Ms. Vargas, seconded by Mr. Bennett. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Judon.
Aye.
Ms. Grass.
Aye.
Ms. Vargas.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 162 Queen Street. Request special exception under section 54-110 to allow an addition and a vertical extension, stairs and bath, that extends a non-conforming 0-foot rear setback and a 0-foot east side setback, 25 feet rear and 3 feet side setback required, zone DR1F. Mr. Batchelder.
This is a residential property in Charleston Village. You see it here on the zoning map. It is a single house just east of or west of Franklin Street on Queen. And you see the main house at the front and a smaller accessory structure to the rear. They would like to alter or build an addition to the accessory structure back here. And there's actually a small storage shed back here right now. So you'll see in the plans that they propose to enlarge the footprint, which requires your approval to extend the non-conforming rear setback, and then also add a second story over that footprint. So that's the vertical extension to extend non-conforming east and rear setbacks. So here's the application, here's the explanation, and an image of the house. Oops. More images showing in the lower left, you see the existing storage shed back here. Pretty sure that's a storage shed if I remember correctly. And it's located right back in this corner. So that's these are historic buildings, limited to what you can do. And more images. Here's another image of that storage building right back here. And more photographs of the history. So on the left, you see the site plan of the existing building on the lot and the setback requirements shown with the dashed red lines. This is what makes our zoning ordinance so difficult to apply. Hopefully that will be fixed when the city council hopefully votes tonight to fund hiring a consultant to come in and do a total rewrite of zoning ordinance. But be that as it is, we've got to deal with what we have tonight. So here is the proposed footprint. You can see it's larger than the shed. And here is a close-up version of that. So this becomes interior space. And a second floor is added over what is now just a single-story shed. So that is, in effect, the request that's before you tonight. Here you see the existing shed and the proposed two-story building addition right here. And inside view, existing and proposed. That's the change that requires your approval. And the applicant has obtained letters of support. Again, this is a view from the west, from the east side, so the neighbor to the east would see that view with this addition. And this is a garden shed, doesn't require your approval. I believe no. So that is the request that's before you tonight. I believe all the letters are in support of this request, and you should have those in your group of comments and letters of support on this. I don't believe there was any objection voiced or concerns raised, and I don't believe anybody has signed up to speak in opposition. Penny, you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of those accounts, but I believe,
you are correct.
So I recommend approval of this request. I believe they have the support of the immediate neighbors that surround this property. And so our recommendation is for approval. I believe that they meet the special exception requirements, and the board should approve this request.
City recommends for approval. There's no opposition. Motion for approval is made by Mr. Bennett, seconded by Mr. Judon. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Judon.
Aye.
Ms. Grass.
Aye.
Ms. Vargas.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. Next item on the agenda is 236 St. Margaret Street. Request a variance to allow construction of an accessory building, garage and frog, with a 3-foot side setback and a 21-foot front setback, 9 feet and 60 feet required, zoned SR2. Mr. Batchelder.
This is a residential property in Wagner Terrace. You see the house on the lot here on this zoning map. The lot is a wide lot for Wagner Terrace. And the house is situated to one side. So it has a large side yard that the applicant would like to utilize with this proposal. This is a view of the existing home. See the driveway over on the right side over here. Application description of what they're proposing to do. The other thing I'll point out is that, and you'll maybe see this on some of the plans, but the applicant had also proposed building a porch off the front of the house that would be roughly the width of the house. And that will require your approval, but we failed to include that on the agenda. We've been missing Penny and all of her expertise in putting these agendas together. So we missed that, and that will come back to you at a later date. But for now, we're dealing with a proposal to build a garage next door to the existing house. So again, another view of the house, survey of the site plan, of a survey of the lot rather, and existing conditions, proposed conditions. So on this drawing, you see a accessory building that's been added. This would be a garage with a finished room over the garage, and would be a detached structure. So it has to comply with the accessory building setbacks. And what they're proposing is to set it 3 feet off the side property line, which for Wagner Terrace is not uncommon, especially along east side property lines. So That's one variance request. The other one would be that they're proposing the building 21 feet back from the front property line. And the setback for accessory buildings is actually 60 feet. So that's a significant variance. In this case, they're proposing to do this for a few reasons. They would like to keep this large backyard that they enjoy right now, free of any buildings. They have this option available to them because of the way the house is configured on this lot, with the lot being extra wide. And they also have a kitchen back here in this area with windows that look out into this yard in this area. And if they push this garage back, then it limits the view that they enjoy right now. So they're proposing to do that. And when they do add this porch on the front, and they're going to come back before the board and get that in front of you, and we would be supportive of that. That's a special exception to extend the non-conforming 4.5 foot setback on the west side. But again, that's a request that many homes in Wagner Terrace have had when the homeowners want to take advantage of the opportunity to build a front porch. And most houses, again, don't meet the setback requirements. So that will be coming before you soon. But back to the garage. So they're proposing to site it here for the reasons I mentioned. And here are more images showing the existing conditions. And those are drawings of the actual garage building, storage, outdoor shower, and stairs to the second floor. And then they would have additional living space up on that second floor. Elevations, these are schematic in the conversation I had today with the architect, who was also the homeowner. He indicated that he will probably be making some adjustments to the roof. But anyway, this drawing actually shows the porch that they would like to eventually end up with on the front as well. And side elevations. And then they submitted letters of support from immediate neighbors. And more. So they have support, and I'm not aware of any opposition or concerns with this request. And Penny can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but my recommendation is for approval.
City recommends approval. Ms. Ashby, is there any opposition?
No, Mr. Robertson, no opposition.
Thank you. City recommends approval.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to hear from the applicant on this issue.
Sure. Is the applicant present? Mr. Bishop? You have him, Lee?
Yeah, he's been promoted. James,
can you hear me now?
Yes, let me swear you in.
Okay.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please proceed, Mr. Bishop.
Again, I'd like to thank everybody for your time this evening and considering this application. Lee, you did a phenomenal job of kind of explaining, our intent for this. And I'd like to echo everything he has already said. The citing the, citing of the actual garage, what we saw as an opportunity, with such a large side yard, we didn't want to set the building all the way back which would create just basically our whole yard would become a driveway. So we thought that it would be nice to be able to pull this forward, create some screening and some privacy for our backyard, allow views from our kitchen into the backyard space where we have our young kids that play. And, we didn't want to we wanted to align it with the front of the existing house, but, in the future application, we would like to add a front porch. So it wouldn't exactly be, in line with the front. So it would have a little bit of a setback to it. But we were careful on trying to, crop views of, how our backyard looks, and, just allowing us to have some more space.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
I don't know if I have a question necessarily, but a comment. I guess Mr. Batchelder, can you flip to the facade of the front view of the property? I'm concerned deeply about the scale of this accessory building relative to the main structure. It doesn't appear diminutive at all, even with the porch setback. And I guess my other thought too is that a two-car garage right out in the front of the street is very uncommon for the neighborhood. And my sense is that would be a detriment to the character of the neighborhood as well. I'd have a hard time supporting this.
I agree with Mr. Bennett. I had the same concerns as well. And I also am curious about, well, I'll just leave it at that for right now.
Anyone else have any questions or any comments?
What does Mr. Batchelder think about those comments from Ms. Grass and Mr. Bennett?
Well, I understand where they're coming from. And, those are probably valid concerns. So I can't say anything against them, really.
Can we ask the applicant the same question, Mr. Robinson?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Mr. Bishop, what are your thoughts on Mr. Bennett and Ms. Grass's comments?
So architecturally, I mean, this was just a very schematic design showing a half story, 1.5 story structure. I still want to work through the architecture some more. If this moves forward, this was really just to kind of start the conversation, just because I wasn't sure if this was going to be allowed or not. There are several of these that have been done. The closest one is actually right around the corner on 6th Street. They just did a 2-car garage adjacent to the existing building. And I mean, that's kind of what we're playing off of. Is there are several of these that have gone in the neighborhood. We think that the scale I can work with the scale of the architecture once we move forward with this.
I guess I'll go ahead and ask my other question is, I'm not quite sure what the hardship is for the variance.
So I pointed that out in our letter that the hardship is that from the 3-foot setback, there are quite a few even just adjacent to us. The house immediately to the right of us, they have a garage facing the street. It's an attached garage with a 3-foot setback on the east, and it's aligned with the front of their house, is what we were using as the predominant. But there are several instances within just on St. Margaret alone that have that same. And then around the corner from us on 6th Street, there's a 2-car garage attached on 2 houses on 6th, and then there's a detached 2-car garage also on 6th as well.
And tell me again how much space is in between the house and the proposed garage?
There's a 10-foot 3 to allow both for circulation. We have existing windows on the house too, so I didn't want to make it too darkened. And then we also have utilities like HVAC, gas meter, electric.
Any more comments?
I'll add one more comment. You know, the 3-foot side setback to me isn't a big concern. My primary concern is the 21-foot distance from the front. To me, that seems far too close. My thought would be, I guess I should, I would, I wonder if a restudy on that is, if I'll ask the question, Mr. Chairman, is it possible to entertain a motion to put forth a motion for deferral so that this can be restudied and not denied at this time?
That's within the purview of the board when we call for motions, if someone feels that way. Any other questions, any comments? Any motions?
I'll put forth a motion for deferral so that the 21-foot setback could be restudied.
Is there a second to that motion?
I second it.
Seconded by Mr. Judon. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Judon?
Aye.
Ms. Grass? Ms. Grass?
Aye.
Ms. Vargas?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. Mr. Bishop, if you would please study that, considering the comments you heard from the board tonight, and come see us again, and we hope to deal with you at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is number 4, 56 Morris Street. Request parking variance to allow a restaurant with 590 square feet of patron use area and an office space with 1,750 square feet without the required parking. 10 spaces required, 6 for the restaurant and 4 for the office space. Zone limited business.
So 56 Morris Street is a commercially zoned property in the Cannonboro, Elliottboro neighborhood. And this is a zoning map just showing limited business on that corner property and as well as the property next door. This aerial image shows the building. It's a 1-story, probably a cinder block building that's been there for a long time. And can't remember when it was, well, I think it was occupied at one time recently or not too long ago by a petty rickshaw company, and they stored their rickshaws in this building. I believe that's true. The owners, the longtime owners of the property, long time, I'll say maybe 10, 20 years, they attempted to come up with plans to demolish this building and replace it with a multi-story building that would potentially have some sort of neighborhood commercial use on the ground floor, and then multiple residential units above. Well, those plans would have required a number of variances, and being a commercially zoned property in this neighborhood would have meant that those wouldn't have been residential units. They would have been commercial short-term rental units, which is not necessarily a ideal use for the neighbors who live around that property. So was never very enthusiastic about those plans, and they never pursued them in front of the board. And now we've got an applicant who would like to utilize the building that's there and build a second story and put uses in that building that would be complementary to the neighborhood. So ground floor would be a little restaurant, coffee shop type use. And second floor would be a office space. actually part of the first floor would be office, and then the entire second floor within the addition would be office space. So here you see the cafe patron area shown here, little kitchen, prep area, bathroom for the cafe. So again, a neighborhood friendly type use within that space. At the back of the ground floor would be office space, as well as the stairs for access to the second floor. And then second floor would be shown here. So office space and a small outdoor area in the front. Kind of a deck on the front portion of the property of the building. So two uses that I think would be low impact uses. The LB zoning allows these uses by right. The only issue is parking. And these are elevations just showing the proposal. And when I received the email from the applicant asking for my opinion, I was quite happy to see something other than an attempt to put a bunch of residential units on this property with no parking. And so I think it's a great use. I was told that at that time that they had reached out to the neighborhood association and received support from the neighborhood association. And I've since learned that that is true. So again, more photographs. This is the letter that I received from Marion Hawkins, the president of the Cannonboro Area Borough Neighborhood Association, indicating that the neighborhood association voted unanimously to approve the applicant's request without the required parking. And I don't believe we received any comments, concerns, opposition from anybody on this request. I think there was one comment, let me back up. I think there was one comment that was submitted in opposition to this request, and they were addressing the parking issues but it's from somebody with an address in West Ashley, I believe, if I remember correctly. And, you know, this is a neighborhood that has a very substantial mix of commercial use within the residential area. And they have supported requests to have these commercial spaces activated, even though they don't provide parking in many cases for those commercial spaces, because they like the fact that they have a mixed-use neighborhood and they don't want to see parking lots. They want to encourage people to walk, and that's what happens. So this is not an unusual request for that neighborhood, and as Mr. Hawkins points out, in this neighborhood, they like this kind of thing, and are happy to see a neighborhood-friendly commercial use go back into this building and have what's been a dilapidated eyesore in that building for the past probably 30 years be fixed up and put to use. So for all those reasons, I think it's a great idea, and I recommend approval of this request.
City recommends approval. Ms. Ashby, is there anyone present in opposition?
No, Mr. Robinson, no one is in opposition.
Ms. Grass moves for approval, seconded by Ms. Vargas Vargas. All in favor signify by saying aye. Mr. Jadon.
Aye.
Ms. Grass.
Aye.
Ms. Vargas Vargas.
Aye.
Mr. Bennett.
Aye.
Mr. Robinson votes aye. The motion is unanimously approved. Thank you all very much. That ends the meeting.
All right. Have a blessed.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy holidays, everybody. Thank you.
Yes, happy
Happy
holidays,
holidays, everyone.
safe.
Happy
Thanks,
holidays.
Wait to see everyone.
See you all next year.
All right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
y'all.
Night.